I remember being super excited for Metroid Dread when it came out. I grew up with the Metroid Prime series and have loved the genre, even though at times it felt like Nintendo didn't. Between Metroid Prime 3, which came out in 2009, and Metroid Dread, which released in 2021, there was one remake and 2 spin-offs, which, if we're being honest about the spin-offs...
They're terrible.
What?
I'm not saying you're a bad inventor. I'm just saying these particular inventions are awful, and no one in their right mind would buy them or accept them as gifts.
My name's Joel. I'm a game designer, and today we'll be looking at the first decent Metroid game to be released in years. We're talking about breadcrumbing and tricks to guide a player, when it goes too far, and how I would have edited the map to enhance exploration. By the way, Dread is a sequel, so for those of you unfamiliar with the Metroid series, let me quickly tell you all of the lore you need to know to enjoy the game.
There was a bounty hunter in the depths of space, and she could easily combine your stupid ass with your face. Her name was Samus Aran, and she would destroy Metroids.
When she wasn't totally lost, I got extremely annoyed. For those unfamiliar with Metroidvanias, they're games where the main draw is exploring to find new powers which can let you do things like double jump. You then use those powers to reach new areas of the map, constantly backtracking and discovering secrets to the areas you had previously explored. Games like Ori and the Blind Forest, Hollow Knight, and of course Metroid and Castlevania are all part of the genre. And of the 2 namesakes, I've always preferred Metroid over Castlevania, because the sci-fi upgrades are cooler to me than Simon's Arsenal.
Whoa, what's that? A whip? Whoa.
What kind of a sadist uses a whip?
Metroid has earned its place as a genre-defining series with classic upgrades like the Morph Ball and Screw Attack, and through really polished gameplay. Running, jumping, and fighting is fun, which is exactly what you want in a genre built on traversal and exploration. Scattered among the other terrific bosses are Dread's new introduction to the series, the Emmys. These invincible enemies hunt you through specific areas. It's fun running from the Emmys, and the game gives you some suit upgrades to outwit them. But when they spot you, it kicks off a chase sequence, and every time this happened to me, I went,
We're gonna die! We're gonna die! I'm definitely gonna die! No way we survive this! Death is coming!
It's a tense game of cat and mouse, at least until they catch you. Then you realize the game's autosave will reset you all of 10 seconds back, and it kinda diffuses the tension in the Emmy chases for the rest of the game. And this is just one of the things in Metroid Dread that had me going,
Is that it? I know what you're trying to say, girl. You're trying to say, oh yeah, that's it.
The next thing I want to talk about is techniques that game designers use to guide players. In the Metroidvania genre, this is important because even though the genre is about exploration, feeling stuck for too long gets players to quit a game. So, developers will often use tricks like placing upgrades in clear view to guide players towards a path. This is a design technique called breadcrumbing. Dread uses breadcrumbs as a way to trigger recall. Unlike games like Mario where the coins can guide you towards where to jump or towards secret paths, in Metroid, the power-ups are often placed just out of reach but in sight so that when you get an upgrade, you'll go, I know where to use this. The developers want you to go through the game like this.
Ooh, a piece of candy. Ooh, a piece of candy.
Another thing Dread does really well to keep players from getting lost is compartmentalize the map. Most new areas will begin with a one-way door. These can be a small hole you can slide through, a pit you fall down and can't jump out of, or platforms that rotate with Samus's weight. These essentially reset the map temporarily, allowing you to focus on a small subset of rooms and how they're connected before adding them back to your full map with an upgrade. Then you can pass through the door as much as you like. If you're ever stuck, there's far less to explore if you're stuck in a 6-room area compared to a traditional Metroidvania where you could find yourself scanning the entire map for a way to make progress. And while I'm sure this sounds good, the problem is Dread takes it too far. In Metroid Dread, you go from one self-contained area to another, with such an obvious path in between that there's really not much time to roam through the world like you would in a traditional Metroidvania. The term for this kind of play experience is railroading, when the player is forced along a linear path that should otherwise be an open play experience. Which is a shame because exploration is my favorite part of the genre. Anytime I noticed the game forcing me somewhere, I just wanted to go,
Bullcrap, I am not following this stupid hippie around anymore.
Eric, where are you going?
I'm going this way.
Young man, I am the adult here, and I say you go this way.
Look, you can stay over here, but I'm going over here.
Let me show you what I mean. In the clip I'm playing now, I've just earned a new power-up, the grapple beam. I use it to open a one-way door. In the next room, the game shows me the exact same symbol that was on the one-way door, so I know to use the grapple beam again to swing across the chasm to the door on the left. Even if I mess up and fall, I'll be stuck in a loop and have to climb back up. Then, in the next room, Samus can't jump high enough to get to the platform above her, but the wall is glowing blue. So sure enough, I shoot the grapple beam to it and Samus can pull herself up. I've now reached a platform with a door, where I can either go through it or I can keep climbing up following the blue path. What you didn't see in this clip is that before this entire sequence started, that's the door I came from. So really my only option is to keep climbing, and at the top of that area is a teleporter to the next location of the game. At no point in this sequence was I exploring or having to put any thought into how I wanted to proceed. This is why I said I was able to beat Metroid Dread while being on autopilot. Metroidvanias are supposed to be about exploration, but it feels like the developers were so scared of players getting lost that they streamlined it too much. And while you revisit locations throughout the course of the game, it's almost always similar to how I just showed you. Painfully obvious where you need to go. I want to show you Metroid Dread's map. It looks like this, and there are a few things about it that bother me. First, I want you to notice how many lines are going between the areas. These are teleporters, positioned within the game. So, oftentimes, if an upgrade you earn is too far from the place you're meant to use it, Dread gives you a teleporter so that you're never more than a few screens away from the intended spot to use your new toy. So you can see how even the backtracking is dumbed down. But what's really annoying about this type of design to me is that it not only reduces exploration, it actually makes it harder to understand how the map fits together. There's nothing wrong with a fast travel system, but so many of these teleporters are unlocked when you need them and then never used again. So it doesn't feel like the world is connected, it feels very gamified. Like whoever designed the planet was building it specifically for when Samus would need to explore it. From a combat and gameplay side, there's not much I would have changed about Dread if I were on the team. Fighting is fun, so is running from the Emmys. Even if the tension is undercut by the autosave, you'll still breathe a sigh of relief after killing them and getting to explore the areas without pressure.
Isn't that nice? I'm so glad the bitch is gone.
The big focus for me would be on fixing the map. And to show you what I'd be aiming for, I want to compare Metroid Dread to another game in the genre, and one of my favorites, Hollow Knight. Let's start by taking a look at Hollow Knight's map. Notice how the entire world is actually connected. Just from this, I'm hoping you can see how it might be easier to learn this map. And it's not like Hollow Knight doesn't have a fast travel system, it does. But unlike Dread, where the teleporters can take you to a new location, Hollow Knight has stations. These stations are fast travel points that you can freely move between, but you have to unlock them by discovering them in the world first, so you never reach a station without knowing the area around it. Speaking of knowing the area around the game, Hollow Knight's first major area for you to explore is here, the Forgotten Crossroads. You'll notice that the Forgotten Crossroads has a location north of it, Dirtmouth. 1 to the west, that's Green Path, 3 to the south, the Fog Canyon, the Fungal Wastes, and City of Tears, and 2 more to the east, the Crystal Peaks and the Resting Grounds. Those are all just the areas that are directly connected to the starting area. By starting players in a more centralized area of the world map, it helps to naturally achieve map familiarity, because players will have to explore through the starting area repeatedly to reach each of the connected areas, traveling back and forth as they collect new upgrades. Then, as you venture further towards the extremities of the map, that's where many bosses and upgrades are, which by virtue of being along the edges of the map, players won't need to revisit these rooms as much. This is what a Metroidvania map should look like. The areas you spend the most time in are the ones you'll be most familiar with, and the ones along the edges of the map where you only visit once don't matter as much. So if I were in charge of Metroid Dread, I would have reorganized the world to place Samus in a more centralized location at the start of the game. I would have changed the teleporters to no longer have fixed pairings of destinations, and instead made them more generic, so that players have to discover them and power them up before they can use them. And then they'd never be used to get players to a new location. They're just there for fast travel. Reaching a new area of the map should always happen naturally through exploration with your new power-ups. Now, I do like how Dread compartmentalized the map and used breadcrumbing to guide players along the path. I would have just toned it down a bit and relied more on exploration. Make the players walk through their past zones a bit more in order to discover the new locations and upgrades. This would have made better use of the Emmys as well by forcing players to travel through their zones more frequently and help players learn the map. And personally, I like when Metroidvanias don't force you to unlock powers in a precise order. So I'd have tried to push that a little more as well by starting the game with multiple viable paths to explore. Like I said, I enjoyed the gameplay of Dread. Most of the enemies and bosses are fun to fight, which is good because there's a lot of copy and paste going on in Dread. The Emmys are particularly guilty of this. To kill them, you have to beat a mini-boss to unlock the Omega Cannon, then you shoot them with that cannon. Every mini-boss you fight to get the Omega Cannon is exactly the same, and every Emmy dies the same way once you have the cannon. It's hard to feel scared of them when the encounters become predictable. The game tries giving each one some unique properties, but it just feels lackluster.
You call this predictable?
You're alligators! Yes! Yeah, I was thinking about it on the way over.
And sadly, because Dread holds your hand so strongly throughout the game, I never felt lost or connected to the world. If you play this genre for the combat and upgrades, you'll have plenty of fun with it. But if you're like me and you love the exploration and thinking about the new possibilities each upgrade grants you, Dread will leave you wanting. It starts strong with some cool ideas and great controls, but by the midway point, it's repeating enemies and you're just going through the motions. The ideas are spent.
Make an interconnected series of tunnels like the Viet Cong. And look, I'm not even shooting you. It's crazy. And I'm spent.
It's a fun game with smooth controls, engaging combat, interesting power-ups that I enjoyed while playing, but I forgot every detail about it a week after I beat it.